Bartolomé de Las Casas. A presentation by Sebastian Guerra and Tristan Curtel.
The early life of Bartolomé de Las Casas. Bartolomé de Las Casas was the son of a small merchant. He enlisted as a soldier and went to Granada, Spain. Las Casas later enrolled into an academy in Sevilla, Spain. In 1502, he left for the West Indies. As a reward for his ventures, Las Casas was granted an encomienda. An encomienda was a system where a person was given a group of Indians or indigenous people in exchange for their labor. This was simply a form of slavery. Las Casas preached extensively that these indigenous people should not be treated this way. He pleaded that you will win more converts to Christ if you treat them with dignity and respect. Las Casas persuaded the emperor of that time, Charles V, to accept his idea of creating communities for both the Spaniards and the Indians. Due to opposition from the owners of encomiendas and an Indian revolt, his idea would later fail and cause him to abandon his Reformation activities. The religious life of Bartolomé de Las Casas. Las Casas joined the Dominican order in 1523. 4 years later, he would begin to write the Historia Apologetica. The Apologetica would serve as an introduction to the Historia de las Indias. Historia de las Indias is a recount of all the mistreatment of the Indians. His recounts were either seen or heard. This exposed the oppression and injustice inflicted upon the indigenous people. This would be his first of many monumental influences of writing.
The adulthood of Bartolomé de Las Casas. Bartolomé de Las Casas was appointed as the first resident bishop of Chiapas and the first officially appointed protector of the Indians. Las Casas, depicting the horrors inflicted by the conquistadors in the West Indies, wrote a very brief narrative of the destruction of the Indians. Las Casas' work finally seemed to be crowned with success when King Charles signed Leyes Nuevas. According to these laws, the encomienda was not to be considered a hereditary grant. Instead, the owners had to set free their Indian slaves after a span of a single generation. To ensure enforcement of these laws, Las Casas was named Bishop of Chiapas in Guatemala, and in July 1544, he set sail for America, together with 44 other Dominicans. Upon his arrival in January, he immediately issued Avisos y Reglas para Confesores de Españoles, or the Admonitions and Regulations for Confessors of Spaniards, the famous confesario, in which he forbade absolution to be given to those who held Indians in encomienda. The rigorous enforcement of his regulations led to the vehement opposition on the part of the Spanish faithful during Lent of 1545, and forced Las Casas to establish a council of bishops to assist him in his task, but soon his uncompromisingly pro-Indian position alienated his colleagues, and in 1547 he returned to Spain, never to return to the people he sought to protect ever again.
That is the end of our presentation on Bartolomé de las Casas. Thank you for your time.